What does it take to go from the back streets of England to standing in the ring as a world champion and then into boardrooms as a global entrepreneur? Welcome to Life the Battlefield, where we explore the raw and filtered stories of resilience, purpose, and power. Today, I sit down with a man whose life reads like a movie script. His name is Ted Cofie. Born in England to Ghanaian parents who faced relentless racial prejudice, Ted grew up as the youngest of 7 boys in the world that didn't make it easy for him to win. But he did. From national level athlete to professional boxer to the IBO World Champion, Ted's journey didn't stop in the ring. He stepped into a new arena, business, earned his MBA and built a global consulting empire, proving that discipline and grit don't retire when the gloves come off. This conversation is about fighting battles, both inside and out, pushing beyond what life throws at you, and rising to claim your place in the world. So get ready to be moved, inspired, and reminded that you are never out of fight. Welcome, Ted Cofie. Ted, welcome to the Life the Battlefield, to this secret location.
It's a great location.
How did you find the parking? I mean, it was a struggle.
It was a 20-minute excursion, but yeah, managed to park in the end.
Look, it's like, I apologize for that fun. It's like, the parking is becoming the commodity in life. I can see it, you know what I mean? But as I said, thank you for finding time to come to our studio today. And you're somebody who is, first of all, being in a room with a world champion IBO, it is absolute honor and pleasure.
Thank
but
you.
Today, let's go educate other people, how Ted managed to go from the sportsman to the businessman, where the most people, boxing is a brutal sport, right? And
it is.
as I say to you, before we start talking, I say, Ted, I started watching the Gangs of London. I was thinking first thing about you because I can see how brutal it's a street lifestyle, and you grow up there. So, Ted, mic is yours. Look, my research shows that you're youngest of 7 boys.
Yes.
From parents who migrated from Ghana in 1960s. Okay, that must be very, very different life story than most of people experience in life.
Yeah.
Parents from Ghana, racial prejudice,
Exactly.
being black in England, 7 boys. Can you share with our audience what that was life look like for you with your parents and your siblings?
Well, it was a tough life, My father was an army man and a blue-collar worker after the army. And so, we fit into that industrialization era of England, where a lot of coal miners were around, a lot of working class people were around. And of course, a lot of Africans were emigrating to England back then because of, colonialization and independence of African countries. They had the opportunity. So it created, a lot of prejudice. A lot of prejudice in England. We know that there's lots of prejudice around the world, but England was particularly bad in the 60s.
Yeah, oh yes.
So, my dad was a tall guy, big smile, faced everything with a smile. Never told us to have a chip on our shoulder. Just head down, bum up, work hard. You'll get what's given to you. Be better than the guy next to you. And that's really been my attitude going through life. Of course, when I'm addressed with racial things, I fire up, right? Because I'm a fighter. Yeah. But in general, if it's never spoken to me and never directed towards me, I chip it off, Okay. I got into fighting as a kid at school, quite young, people calling me names because of my color. So I was always able to fight. So as I've grown up and I've relaxed a little bit and I've gone into other things, I always think to myself, that guy can call me names and look at me, but he can't beat me up. So where's the harm?
That's interesting. Yeah. Look, as you stipulated something very interesting. Most of people sees now the no rough diamond, but finished diamond, you polished diamond, it's which you are. But growing up in those times, it wasn't easy. But
No.
to be strong, like,
Yeah.
how did you achieve to be strong? Did again, you say your father was always with a smile on the face.
Yeah.
You never let nothing touch you. I mean, emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of racism. But how did you manage to stay strong? How did you decide one day you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to be like a very strong man?
Well, back in the day, we had, there was a policy and a procedure. We had a fair fight procedure.
Okay.
If we used to get into fights at school and you'd have an argument with a school friend or a school adversary, and you would, 4 o'clock, there's a fight in the back of the school, and we'd go and fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you win some, you lose some. You shake the hand, you move on to the next. Everyone's watching. No one's allowed to pull a knife or a glass or anything, because if they did, the whole crowd would be like, no, that's not fair. So there was a code in fighting, and I grew up in that area of coded fighting. So I learned how to fight. I learned how to defend myself,
Yes.
And once my brother saw some guy pushing me around and he was much bigger than me, they made me go back and fight him while they all watched, And I went and I fought the guy. He was like 3 years older than me, and I was like 10 years old. So we grew up in a fighting community. Coincidentally, that's not what got me into boxing, but it's relevant in the fact that, I had to create certain mindsets in life. Obviously the key wasn't to fight, but we understood that if there was any battles or any adversity, it would be resolved through fighting.
You brought some memories of my own, because I grew up in communist Yugoslavia, and
Wow.
like that same thing was, it was a clean fight, there was no, everybody will observe, but you go against. But my dad was, you remind me of your brother reminds me of my dad, actually. My father always told me, if you let people push you, you're always going to be pushed, on the corners. He said, you need to pick up the strongest one and fight him. And on, those days, like, what do you mean strongest guy is going to beat me? But even fighting strong guy, you get some type of, recognition of the society that you're done.
Exactly.
So Ted, in his school, let's go just make your foundations right now. In his school, what type of students you were? Good student, bad student? You excelled? You didn't excel it?
Now, I was a good student because, a lot of Africans are very big on academia and getting good academic results. So I was a good student. Yeah. I was always very good at maths. I still am. But, we had a lot of diversions at school.
Yes.
A lot of diversions, as you probably know, coming from where you came from. Yeah. So even if you're a good student, you're never able to just be a good student. So here's what happened to me once at school. It's a true story. Yeah. So we had a homework project. And so the teacher gave us the result. And my book was underneath one of my classmates' book. So I went to the table to pick up my result, my class book. And I moved the guy's book and I picked up my book. Boom, punched me in the face. Don't touch my butt, you effing N-word. That's what he called me. In class. Teacher saw it. Teacher said nothing. Okay. So all my friends,
my
shit,
God,
4 o'clock fight after
it's
school.
4 o'clock. Fight.
Ted and Cole, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's like 4 o'clock after school. So I was fuming like this time because he punched me in the face.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. No problem. So the bell goes for school, 5 to 4, whatever it was, and we walked down to the fight area. As we're walking across the yard to the fight area, I said, "Oi!" So we just get into the fight area, and I was like one of the last ones out of the class. So I've run up, and I've called his name, and boom, I hit him, and we got into a fight, and I busted him up, and he was, "Oh, I'm sorry." And too late to apologize.
Bro, it's too late. Yeah.
This is a fight, and we fought. So, but there was safety in the fact that you knew that when you fought, it was win or lose, fair, try the next day. But, there was always the distractions in that you knew you had to kind of protect yourself. And that was good because he was my age. But often people older would try and fight you. I was lucky I had all my older brothers. But,
Yeah,
but,
who mess with you? Like, they're not like, okay, Dad has the 6 brothers, you know what I mean? Like, you don't go there. But I don't believe your brothers fought your fights, right?
No,
they were there
never,
to protect
never.
nobody.
But they were there just to protect the situation. So when my brothers put me into a fight with someone bigger than me, they would stand back and watch. My mum would be like, take him back. He's got to fight. You make sure it's fair. And that was it. And that was it. You know, and we had that, you know, in the 70s and the 80s, we had that mentality.
Yeah, today's changed.
Today's really, really changed, man.
So what possessed you? Okay, let's go start with this one. The box in 70s and 80s, even in 90s, is not perceived like the sport of the people who are very gentlemen or smart people, academics. It was always considered sport of the thugs, criminals, you know what I mean, everything else.
Exactly.
So do you mind to share with us, because as I said, like, you know, you were in school good. What possessed you, or what triggered you that you go into the boxing?
Well, at school I was an athlete, so I was never a boxer. I knew from a young age I'd travel the world as a professional athlete.
Okay.
I was a runner. So I ran for England. I was a fast runner. I was a sprinter. And when I was 15, from 15 to 17, when I was finishing school, there was a massive teacher strike in England. A lot to do with Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister then.
Okay.
And there's lots of, you know, she was doing a lot of stuff and privatizing public things, schools, and there was lots going on. I didn't know much. It was political. But at the age where the scouts would have came and seen me compete in soccer and in athletics, there were no scouts because teachers were on strike. They would go to school at 9 and finish at 3:30 or whatever, and they'd go home. No soccer, no after school games, nothing. So that was my last 2 years. And so a friend of mine said to me, look, why don't you come to the boxing gym and just keep fit? So I went to the boxing gym to keep fit. And of course I was a good athlete. So going into a boxing gym because I couldn't compete in my own sport made me go to boxing, made me look at boxing as a sport. It was a replacement sport. It wasn't because of I was a bad kid or because I wanted to fight or because I was in juvenile detention. Nothing. It was a sport in my mind. So I went there, and I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again.
Please.
So after 2 weeks, my trainer, Danny, a Scottish guy that, you know, kind of looked after the gym, said, look, you're going to spar. And I sparred a guy named Mark McBain. And I went to hit him, but he was slipping and moving and dodging everything. I was like, I can't hit this guy. It was hitting me to the body and head 3 rounds. I'm like, I didn't hit this guy one punch. And Danny said, look, kid, I can teach you how to do that. You know, it's all technique. I'll show you some moves. You're a fit guy. You come back, keep coming back, and I'll teach you how to do that. So he taught me how to parry a punch. You know, how to slip a punch, how to parry a punch, how to counter a punch. He taught me all that and what to do. So 2 weeks later, we went back and we said, okay, we spar again. So now I was catching and slipping his punches, you know. And then in the second round, he went to hit me with the right hand. I slipped and I hit him in the body. And he went, stop. And I was like, wow, this really works. This really works, you know. And really, I was hooked. So for me, and if you look at some of my old boxing fights, you know, to me it was a sport. It was all a technical sport. And when I went to box with certain people around my area, you know, Harold Bomber Graham and people that were very good at the art of boxing, I learned the art of boxing as a sport. And so I valued it. I wasn't just going in there to just, I want to just pull this guy's hair and rip his head off. To me, that wasn't boxing. Boxing was the noble art of hitting and not being hit. And so that's really what got me into boxing.
So let's go talk now about taking off in boxing, right? You know, like, you know what I appreciate. Thank you, Ted, for being truthful and honest, because, you know, most of the guys, including myself, you know, when you go into boxing, you always place the punches on somebody, but did somebody punch me? No, it's no way. You know what I mean? Like, but of course, you're saying how it was for you, you know what I mean? And the coach said you need to learn. That's a very strong statement, that you can't learn the craft of anything if you're not prepared to sit and learn. I mean, in boxing, you don't sit, but you need to repetition, you need to attend the trainings, you need to listen to your coach and mentor, everything else. Before we move into this, how you succeed in the boxing, for all people listening right now, why is it important to have the good mentor or coach as you did from the start?
Well, this is you know, your mentality is your foundation for success, and we know that now. When I was younger, I used to think that boxing was about fitness. You know, a very, very fit young guy, 4% body fat all year round, train, no problem. And then I realized, wait a minute, diet, creates fitness. So I started to learn about diet, optimum sports nutrition, and all these things. Wow. So I changed my diet and I was able to sustain my weight beautifully. So I thought that 50% diet, 40% exercise, 10% mentality. That's what I thought boxing was. But now,
Yes.
it's 90% mentality, 5% fitness, 5% diet in that ratio. Because you can diet and you can train as hard as you like. If your mentality is not right, forget about it. So having the right mindset is what's going to create success in your life.
You know, I'm so I'm sorry to interrupt you. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
no
so
problem.
thankful that you're here today.
Thank you.
Honestly, because I'm always advocating for the people. I'm come from military background,
Yeah.
and I always value the people who can teach me the theory, then they demonstrate in practical way. Then you can, do the practical way. So how, not why. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a Ted Cofie in studio, and the beauty of the Ted Cofie having studio is very simple. He can demonstrate how to win in life, and that's how we're gonna come a little bit later to that thing, what Ted doing right now for living, so he can help you. But thank you, Ted, for sharing this with us. Mentality, it's 90%, 5% it's dieting, and 5% exercising. And you said something. It's your words. I'm gonna put this. Mentality is a foundation for success.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
first fight.
Yeah.
How'd that happen? You trained, okay?
I trained.
90% dieting. No, sorry, 50% dieting, 40% exercising. That was your first step, right?
That was It was all initially when I first started. It probably was 80% fitness because I was fit anyway, so I didn't realize I really had to eat super nutritious foods. I mean, my mom used to give me vitamins and halib orange and olive oil, and and she would give me carrots and things, but I didn't realize I had to eat in a nutritional way to fuel my body. So all of my fitness was exercise. I would run everywhere. I would train constantly. So I that's what I did. In my first fight, I fought in Birmingham. I look young for my age now.
Yeah.
When I was 30, I looked 20. So when I was 19, I must have looked 11.
You know what? Let's go sell these guys. If you ever need assistance how to look young as well, Ted Cofie is your man, because I don't even dare to ask you how old you are. I know how old you are, but so. You say that your training was actually, your preparation was all about training.
Yeah.
Your mom, she will give you carrots, apples, all these things, and we sell vitamins. And the first fight comes in Birmingham.
In Birmingham. I fought a guy. It was a man, I mean, I can barely grow a beard now. So when I was 19, I looked 11 years old. This guy's like 27, 28 years old. He's got a beard. And I'm like, fighting this man. I was scared. I was really scared, And anyway, so I got into the ring, and I was just, because I never fought amateur. So it was my first professional fight in my life. I mean, I'd fought in school, in the street, but I never had a crowd watching me. I'd never had people with cameras, never had witnesses, to that level. And so I get in the ring. In my first fight, it was a draw. I think he caught me some punches and he knocked me down in the first round. Well, I put a knee down in the first round because I was a bit overwhelmed. But anyway, I was always determined because my brothers and my mum, my dad were like, you always have to fight back. So I fought back. I broke his jaw and knocked him down in the fourth round. I couldn't knock him out. And at the end of the fight, they made it a draw, and someone's like, you won that fight. You were one punch from knocking him out. And then after that, I settled down and I learned how to box it even a bit more in combat, and I won a string of my next few fights. And then after that, after fighting a couple of fights in England, I left England and I moved to Australia and then travelled, around the world. But basically, I'll tell this story actually. So
yes, please.
I had I had a little bit of adversity, when I was in England. I have a very slight birth defect in one of my eyes, which doesn't affect my boxing and doesn't affect my vision. But in London, they wouldn't allow me to fight unless I had an explanation for this. So I earned £250 in my first fight, and they sent me to a doctor on Harley Street in London that was costing me like £350 to see a doctor. So I'm earning £250 to fight and £350 for the doctor. And the doctor was like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you."
Yeah.
And the British Boxing Board of Control said, "Well, you know, we need
Something.
an explanation,
Yeah, yeah.
and we need it to be like this." But no, his isn't like this. But there's nothing wrong with him because this is the situation. I know it sounds vague, but that's how it was. So you know, I didn't really make any effort to fight back in England. I fought overseas. I had other opportunities, and I fought overseas, and that's what I did. And I was ranked in England, and I fought in America and Germany and New Zealand and Fiji and Australia, and every doctor has always passed me.
Yeah.
So really, that's what I was dealing with. And that's
Can I just draw some parallel from between the first fight and every fight you fought with the daily life of everybody, right? You say something that was your first fight in Birmingham. You know, this first time you have the crowd, you have you fight somebody you don't know. So metaphorically speaking, everybody goes in some type of the life battles on daily basis.
Yeah.
They're gonna face a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, crowd, audience. And you said, as again, many people not say this, you say you were afraid, you were scared.
Very.
Okay, so what would you say to people? Ted Cofie going first time in ring and every time in ring, facing crowd, challenges, obstacles, fears. How would you compare this to the daily life? What your advice will be to anybody listening to you right now? How to take it from your advice to deal with the fear? Or with the crowd, negative comments.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, fear is the same in everybody. Whether you've got the ability or nerve to overcome that fear, or whether you shrink and retreat and accept the problem of fear. My example is this. So if you're a soccer player and you're new on a team, you're the new player, the ball comes to you. You make a run for the goal. You take on two players, you take a shot. It hits the top of the crossbar and goes. You failed. You make the same run, take on two players, hit the ball, hits the bottom of the crossbar and goes in, you're a hero. The journey is exactly the same. There's no difference. Failure and success is exactly the same journey. If Michael Jordan scored a basket in the last buzzer of 3 of his championship games, which made him now a 6 or 7-time champion. Had he have missed those baskets, 3 of those baskets, he would have been a failure. One shot determined his difference. Michael Jordan has got a career average, for example, please don't quote me exactly, but the average of the top players in the NBA was something like 52 points a game. Or whatever it was, 48 or 52 points a game. Michael Jordan's average is like 54 points a game. 1 basket. Or 55. For him to be great is literally 1 extra chance, 1 extra try, 1 extra go. It's not like everyone's average is 25 and he's 105.
Yes.
That road of success or failure is your ability to address the fear, look it in the eye and try anyway. If you fail, try again. Because the only way that you can guarantee failure is if you don't try. That's the only guarantee of failure.
You said this so well, I wasn't expecting our conversation is gonna go in that way, but that's what makes you a remarkable person. With
Thank you.
Who, as I said, people. It's easy to be in a crowd. You know what I mean? I never fought professionally. Never fight as an amateur. Like I'm doing the masters boxing. It's different, and you face your demons. Even as that type of competition. But being professional from young age, you know what I mean? You have so many obstacles. Do you mind to share with us one fight for which one you are maybe preparing yourself beyond your expectations? Maybe facing more fears. Maybe was the biggest challenge for you? Some of the fights. Is there any fights you can highlight to say like that was my most difficult fight for some reason? Maybe training. Maybe the opponent was older than you, something like.
Well, I've got one situation where I can tell you where my opponent was very difficult. But I'll tell you a story when I tell you that had a very happy ending. Then I'll tell you the one that was the most difficult.
Yeah.
So when I first started boxing, I had three, and I mentioned this. I had three very simple, very clear goals. And it's weird to be 17 years old and have these clear goals, but I had them. Okay, I want to win a title. I want to fight in America, and I want to come out of the sport with my brain intact. These was my strategic goals in boxing. In fact, I said I want to fight at Caesars because I saw Sugar Ray Leonard fight Marvin Hagler on April the 7th, 1986. And I said to myself, I want to fight at that location. So fast forward to me being 30 years old, and I get to fight at Caesars, upstate Nevada. I'm fight at Caesars.
Caesar Palace.
At Caesars Palace.
God, man. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in upstate Nevada. So I'm very close. I fought at Caesars. I mean, I thought, I've hit the pinnacle of my dream now. I'm now looking my dream in the eye, and I've achieved my goal. So I'll get in the ring. I was super, 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 super fit at the time. I was doing 400-meter drills, 55 seconds, 60-second break. I was doing 12, 15 of these. Boom, boom, boom. I was doing uphill sprints, max incline on a treadmill, 60 seconds straight. My heart rate, at 30 years old, my heart rate was going to 190 beats a minute, my heart rate. So my CO2 was through the roof. My heartbeat was 39 beats a minute resting. I was just a machine. So I stand in this ring, and people are doing interviews with me. So suddenly Al Bernstein is the ring announcer. I've seen him my whole life on TV. Sugar Ray Leonard is in the ring on the broadcast panel. I've got all these guys that I've looked up to my whole life. They're all there, and I'm in America. And my Mexican opponent gets in the ring, and I throw punches and I knock him out in 58 seconds. I mean...
Jeez, man.
I mean, that night, I could have beat Tyson. I just felt so high, so powerful, so strong. And it was amazing to see my goal materialize. And some people look their goal in the eyes and they retreat and fail. Other people go straight into the fire. That night, I had to go into the fire. It was amazing. A story. This is a battle that gave me... I've had another fight that was very difficult. It was my last fight. Gave me massive adversity. I told the story, but I haven't related it to adversity.
Please, can you share with us? Yes.
Yeah, so I fought a guy, a very, very, very tough Nigerian guy in Los Angeles at the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And my trainer, who was a devout Muslim guy and quite affable guy, easy to get on with, talked, laughed, everything. Yeah. Before this fight, he became very... About 2 weeks before my fight, he just became very weird and very introverted. Now, everyone's allowed to have a bad day. You may have an argument with your wife. Someone may swear at you in the car, whatever. But this was different. Like his whole molecular structure, his whole demeanor had completely shifted. Completely shifted. Like two different human beings. And I kept saying to him, look, what's wrong? What's wrong? Oh, nothing. Meet at the gym. Like, we'd meet at the gym. Sometimes we'd have water. We'd talk. No. He'd be in the gym, boom, and he'd be gone. He'd be like, oh, he didn't even say goodbye. He's gone. It was strange. So, okay, we got to meet in Los Angeles. We got to meet in the car lot, in the car park. We got to meet there at like 4 o'clock or 3:30 because American fights start really early. We get to the event at 3:30, the producer starts screaming, oh yeah, okay, we got glove up right away, get in the ring. Right, we're like, what the heck? Yeah. So it was just strange. So straight away, you rush into glove up, the body's not warm. You got to fight right away, 4:30 is your fight. We're going early. So I gave, the guys had my music from the weigh-in on the day before. I had this amazing music that was going to energize my soul. They put on the wrong music. So I'm standing like in a holding area. It's got like NBC TV and everything on the back of this thing. And I'm in this holding area with a TV camera on me. And the producer or director or floor manager or whatever he was starts screaming and yelling and shouting. No, the guy said it's the wrong effing music, man. Music. But what? But I can't move him. He's huge. Like, the guy won't effing move. And so guy's really affecting my energy. Because he's not yelling and screaming and swearing behind the camera. And they're saying, will you come in the ring? I'm like, dude. You're playing me like devil music. This is devil music. it's like
It's not you.
it's not me.
Yeah.
It's like heavy metal devil music, and I'm like, I'm not moving. Put my song on, couldn't find the music. So for 2 minutes, I'm standing in this. I'm like, oh my God. And this guy's yelling and screaming. And my trainer is just like standing there with his head down, like just completely vacant. I'm like,
Oh my God.
this is amazing. So I go into the ring. I start fighting this guy. Left hook, I break my hand. My left hand in the
first round.
First round.
My God. Yeah.
This thing, I knew it was broken straight away. Right here, cracked it straight on my top knuckle. I'm like, oh, I've got no left hand. So for my whole fight, I've got to fight this guy right-handed, and I'm swinging around. And after 2 rounds, they can see, wait a minute, my left hook's my best punch. This guy's got no left hand. So he's throwing big right hands to my head while I'm trying to catch him and block and catch. Yeah. And anyway, I got a draw. It was an awful fight. And so I went to the doctor. I said, look, my hand's broken. And my trainer's like, oh, no. If it was broken, you'd be in pain. I said, I am in pain. I've just been used to having pain my whole life. It's broken. I knew it. So they took me to Beverly Hills and to the physician, and I said, yeah, it's a clean break. You know, can you take him? He said to my trainer, can you take him home with you tonight? He's had punches to the head, and don't leave him by himself. I saw Muhammad Ali that night too.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He was there. And I said, Muhammad Ali, I'm sorry, man. I'm normally pretty like you. And he's like, you a bad man. And he was so cool. Anyway, so we go back to his house, and I say to him, look, Shadid, what was wrong? What's wrong? Like, where were you for this fight, man? We've had such great training every day. He said, tonight's the night my son died. He was killed. A few years back, he was killed. He was shot in LA in the back. He got shot in LA. Yeah. He fell on the floor. He was crawling. The guy shot him 3 times in the back, killed him.
So you didn't know that? He never told you?
I never had a clue. I was like, so you put me in his energy. I could feel his soul with me tonight. So tonight, that could have been me going into his soul. I mean, if I didn't have the strength to fight my battle and survive my battle, this is where you put me. Why didn't you just say that and we could have just fought next month?
Yes.
And so understanding that from a mental point of view, because by the time I was 30, I was a lot more mentally attuned than when I was fighting at 20 and 18.
Yes.
I mean, so I understood the real negativity and the real the strength it took to get through that, because I was being drawn into an emotional and a physiological and a difficult battle that drained me mentally, and I managed to come through it. So coincidentally, I didn't fight after that because of other reasons, but it was looking back, it was a very, very testing time and very clear, very real 25 years ago, but clear to me like yesterday. The whole event, the whole week, even the fight. It's the only fight where I remembered every single round.
You know, this what makes you, in my eyes, and I will say this with a full authority right now. Everybody loves to make their life, it's turn into some sob, sad story, cry me a river, my mom didn't love me, my life is this and that, this is smiling. You face it, not just your fight, your obstacle that night, but somebody else's energy and, you know, music and everything what you don't want it, you know, not don't want it, but but anticipate it.
Exactly.
Correct. Yeah. And yet you step it into the ring because you're preparing yourself for the fight anyway. It was a draw, and I'm sorry, but it's not like that you didn't want, but I think it is what you brought with you right now, right here. It's to everybody can learn from you that one way or another, you're going to face the battles you don't want it.
Exactly.
You'll not have the people to support you. They're supposed to support you.
Exactly.
But I'm grateful that your honesty, it is a truly hallmark of this interview. Like you continuously surprise me with your honesty. You don't, as I said, like you don't sugarcoating things, you know what I mean? No. And make yourself as a hero, but instead of this, as a human. So that was your last fight. And then, if I remember from your presentation, somehow KFC comes into the role.
Exactly.
Is that was your... transition from the boxing into the...
No.
No?
In fact, let's go back even further. So
please.
KFC was the beginning of my career. So I left school, I went to college.
Okay.
And I went to college in London. So I was born in Nottingham. Went to college in London. And I worked at Claridge's as a night porter in one of the best hotels in London. And I worked in... And after that, I kind of got a job at KFC. Now, the reason KFC is significant is because people are like, oh, you're an athlete, you're a boxer, and you're working at KFC.
That's what I heard in your conversation, that night presentation. So
exactly.
Look at these guys.
And they were laughing at me. Yeah. But for me, I had no money. Athletics don't pay you money when you're 17 years old. Right? I'm running in the tens. I'm running 10.4, 10.3, 10.4, but you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Right? You attend meets and it's payless. And at the time, I was not a professional boxer, so you've got no way of earning money. I go to college, you don't get paid. I had no way of getting paid. So I went from struggling to get around to being paid £90 a week at KFC. And everyone was like, why the hell are you so happy? Why are you the happiest employee at KFC?
Yeah, why are you happy?
You're 17 years old or whatever, and you're just happy to have this job. Because that was my stepping stone to where I needed to get to. I went from, how do I get to the gym, put petrol in the car, do all the things I do. I now got £90 a week to buy some boxing boots, buy some bandages, go to London, drive to see my mum, whatever it may be. It opened. I knew it wasn't permanent. To me, I was doing the best I could do in that time because it would create something for the future. So I was creating foundation for myself. So I'd come in Saturday night, all the guys would come from the pub and they'd come into KFC. Oh, Ted, you're working, give me free chicken. It's like, you're not laughing at me now, are you? You better pay. You got to pay for the chicken. So it was a really good job. I knew I was going to do it for a short time. Yeah. It gave me what I needed to the time. It helped me save money to go into, if I had to go to France or Europe to do anything, I would save my money. And I could train, I could get around. It was a brilliant story. And so when I left KFC, they gave me like that. They gave me, I won like the best employee for the month. Like I was there like 12 months or something.
You know that your story right now, your life story, your life success story, you just now killed every coach and guru on a market because everybody tried to buy for $29.95 per month blueprint for success, be millionaire.
Yeah.
But this is the true blueprint. You grinded your way up. You chewed, you trained, you sacrificed. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not ashamed to say I was working in KFC. So did you enjoy the chicken in KFC or not?
Yeah, back then I used to eat it, but not so much.
That was real chicken,
even then, my mom really wasn't into fried food for me. She knew I was an athlete, but I didn't mind it. Yeah. But for me, it was an amazing experience. Yeah. I mean, for me, I had a job, and being the son of an African immigrant, having a job was something to be proud of. Yeah. It wasn't something to turn your nose up at, shrug your shoulders. You see, what I've realized, if I can skip forward a little bit on the timeline, my daughter's now doing my social media. And I was paranoid about doing social media. I don't want people to know my life. I don't want to stand in the gym and take photos.
Yeah.
But my daughter's like, Dad, this is the 21st century.
Yes.
You have to do social media.
She's good, yeah.
But what I realized from social media, what I've realized from podcasts, it's hard work. If you think you can achieve anything without hard work, even the things that look easy, you got no chance. So that hard work mentality was drilled into me as a young man. I never remember my dad being sick. I never remember him having a day off work. And he had the same mentality. Up until I was about 14 years old, I never had one day off school, ever. I got really, really sick, I think, when I was like 10 years old or something. I had like 2 days off. So this mentality of get up, try your best, work hard, do it. And it wasn't a case of negatively work hard so you can just work yourself to death. It was a case of have that mentality. And I've still got it. You know what I mean?
You said this at the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah.
Mentality, it's foundation for success.
Absolutely.
But interesting what you said as well on the same token. Failure and success are the same journey.
Exactly.
And look, I prepared the questions, but with you, there's no, obviously, like the clean slate with the questions, like what I follow the questionnaire, which I think they're very interesting, but it's coming to the transition now from you doing the boxing, your last fight, into the business. What happened then? Obviously, you said like my gloves are off now, and what was next step?
Well, I mean, obviously, at 30 years old, I still felt very strong, very young. But I started to learn about the business of boxing. I didn't like what I was learning. I didn't like what promoters were doing to fighters, what managers were doing to fighters. I understood it. Unfortunately, I understood it. I used to read a lot when I traveled. I had a lot of downtime. This is the thing about being a professional athlete. People talk about, oh, I'm bored. I want to be a professional athlete. If you want real boredom, be a professional athlete. Repetition. Go again. Try. Repeat. Repetition is the secret to success and perfection. Your repetition
I'm glad
will
you
create
said.
perfection.
I'm glad you said that.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Without repetition, forget it. Even I heard Ronaldo still does 1,000 straight kicks to the goals a day. The straight stuff, the direction, the foundation, boring. So I used to read. I had a lot of downtime. I used to travel hotels, travel the world training. I had a lot of downtime. So I started to understand boxing, the business. Wait a minute. If this shows, why is this boxer, as a boxer, you're getting paid maybe $10,000 for this fight? The promotion's worth X. The promoter's got a Ferrari, and I'm driving a Ford. It just didn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense even
doesn't
today
make
for me.
Yeah, and when you look at fighters who come in the sport and they leave the sport and they're damaged or they've got some emotional or mental deficit, speech deficit, something, you see the promoter just move on and make more money and still be in the sport, still be affluent, still speaks well, does everything right. None of it just made sense. So a friend of mine said, oh, you should get into property. So I got on this property course and started to learn about property. I bought some property when I was, in my 20s and started to make a bit of money. And I was like, none of it made sense. So as a youngster, my mum was always like, being the last born, you got to be a doctor. African.
But you're the favorite one, aren't you? Right? Because
you're
the youngest.
The youngest, you
Mommy's
get all the
boy. Okay,
you got to be a doctor.
I can relate this. Yeah.
So I always knew in my mind that I was going to do something academic. Academia was always very big to me because it was, as a kid, it was always like, you got to be a doctor. You got to be smart. You got to be a doctor. So I went and did my MBA. And I did my MBA and I specialized in entrepreneurial management. And to be honest, I did my MBA because I wanted the letters behind my name so that I could get a bigger job. I was stuck in middle management. I couldn't move. I worked at Canon, fantastic company, but I was strategic commercial manager, commercial sales manager, and it was probably the highest I was going to get. And I did my MBA, and suddenly I was like, wow. But as I was doing my MBA, I started to learn about business, man. I started to learn why numbers are important, how we can relate numbers to success, how you can create operations, process management, inflows, create outflows. What's the difference between, revenue and profit? What's the difference between cash flow and working capital? And all these things, you're like, wow. So it really taught me the foundations of business and how to measure a business, how to look at a business, what goodwill means, and all these things that you can't accidentally learn because you're just working at somebody's place. And so after that, I thought, this is how much businesses earn, what they pay me, what the revenue I bring into these businesses, because I've been in sales, bringing in big revenue for businesses. And I thought to myself, I'm going to start a consulting company. I can do it myself. I've got less overheads.
Yeah.
I don't need a massive office with 3,000 people, so I've got lower overheads and I can get higher returns.
Yes.
And I started my own business 10 years ago. And I've been going ever since.
Your story, it's not short of the positive, encouragement and serious motivational approaches to the life. You say all this with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
So please excuse me if I'm too direct.
No problem.
You said at the beginning, your father was doing everything with a smile on his face. I never saw your father, but I can see you smiling as you're talking. I said to myself, he must be like his dad, because if your dad was a blue collar, military man, all these things, and smile on the face, you challenge in life, you learn very quickly. Yeah. Speaking about those promoters, I was always surprised. I was reading about Tyson biography, and he says the best time he had ever in his life when he was in prison. I said to myself, my God.
Amazing.
Yeah, because he says then it was a quiet, he read, he talked to people, there was not much noise outside.
Yeah.
But he spilled the beans how the Don King actually stole his money. And as you said, promoters get a Ferrari, you get a Ford. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. So how do you apply into your role now, into leadership as a CEO? What do you learn in life, in boxing? How do you apply those now into the leadership?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, obviously boxing offers lots and lots of adversity, you know, lots of setbacks. Yeah. And it's real. And one of the reasons I didn't want to get in social media, actually, is because everything looks
when your daughter,
fantastic.
she watched this, you know, I mean, like she's going to say, Dad, stop it.
But everything in social media is fantastic. There's no honesty. Everyone looks beautiful, the best makeup. Oh, I'm driving my car today. Oh, I'm going here, I'm doing this. Where's the real stories? We're living in a world of just fake truths. And so this was one of my battles with social media because, you know, when we were kids or when we were younger and we had an issue, it was just kind of get over it or fix your mental issues. But now it's kind of like everything. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Everything's brilliant here. Sorry, that's right, isn't it?
No, that's okay. That doesn't worry. Yeah.
Everything's brilliant here, but deep down, there's all these emotional issues that people are having to, you know, work through their mental, you know, work through their kind of like their mental anguish, you know. So, you know, what real life teaches you is how to overcome adversity, you know, overcome the difficulties that have been put in front of you, and they're gonna come, and they're always gonna be there, and they're gonna keep coming. I mean, so you've always got to try and have a vision and look at an end game to say, how am I going to get out of this? How can I get through this? And, you know, fight through that battle, you know. And a lot of the fights people are going to have are going to be mental fights, not physical fights, that can be far testing than a physical fight. You have a physical fight, you have a bruise, your bruise heals. A mental fight, a mental issues, sometimes that doesn't heal.
Doesn't heal, yeah. Now you say like it's like, you know, repeating all the time what you said at the beginning, because it's like I never heard somebody was so clear what is required for success. And you say it all the time, mentality, it's required for success.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you are nothing short than, you know, the challenges in life, you know, not just because, you know, the seventh kid in your family or you need to fight this one, you know, but you need to fight racial prejudice as well, you know. I mean, how did you deal with that in your life? Now it's still different, but you know, those days, you know,
I mean, it was
70s and 80s was not easy to be the black kid in a hood.
Exactly. I mean, it was very difficult. It's still difficult for me. I mean, you know, you look at me and, you know, like you said, I do face life with a smile. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. It doesn't bother me. But if people come at me racially, it's the one thing that really gets me going, you know. And I know that, you know, behind my back, I'm sure there's going to be racial conversations. I mean, that's life, right? It happens. I'm not blind to that situation. But, you know, I've been lucky. God's made me a big guy. I can fight. So people don't say stuff to my face. And generally, my demeanor and attitude towards people is quite friendly and quite calm. So I have good relationships with people. But you do get, you know, racial adversity, you know, and it was hard to deal with, you know what I mean? I mean, some people have never had to experience it. Yeah. But like a lot of things that create adversity in your life, you kind of become accustomed to it and you kind of learn how to roll through it. If when you was a kid, if you couldn't deal with your situation, you had to deal with it.
Look, you and I, we have like something very similar. It's like we grew up on the street. We need to fight way up. But Ted, everybody who is now watching, seeing you, somebody who fought his real battles, I mean, in a ring. It's like a modern gladiator. People don't understand. You know, even today when I go to watch some fights and I'm seeing you, you know, I'm so glad. I said to my, you know, people around me, it's like, this is the guy I'm going to interview, right? And everybody says to me, who is this? Ted Cofie. I said, how do you know him? I said, look at he's there. You know, it's a different perspective now when you are commentating, you know, I mean, the fights. But you know what it takes to walk in that ring and everybody's watching you. People are shouting you. And, you know, of course, I want to share something with the audience from your life and your life experience. People will be bullied in life. People will be afraid. What Ted Cofie has advice now to everybody who's watching right now is going to face some type of adversity which is going to affect more mentally as a bullying or racial. What would you advise them to do?
Well,
We cannot be Ted Cofie fighting.
No, of course. Look,
Yeah.
nothing ever stays the same.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Life is a constant evolution, constantly changing.
Yes.
You know, you got to try and put yourself in a positive position. You got to look at. You've almost got to look at the other side of the rainbow to say, you know, how can I position myself?
Yes.
Who can I associate myself with that's going to help this bullying disappear? And that sounds like a weird thing to say, but it's not. Because in business, it's the same. In life, it's the same. When you go through life, you need to attach yourself to positive people or to a network that's going to help you excel. And that's no different in school. If you're a skinny guy, but you got a good brain, you can attach yourself to the big guy and help him do his homework, right, for example.
Yes.
Let's look at things from reality, right? We've got all this, you know, political correctness now where you can't say something or you can't do something. But the reality is, if you're a small guy and you're getting pushed around, you better figure out how you can hang out with the big guys. That's your survival.
Yes.
So your network is your net worth. And that's exactly the same whether you're 10 years old at school or whether you're in a job and you got a crappy job and your boss is picking on you, or it doesn't matter. When you start networking with the right people, when you got the right circle, you will then maneuver through life easier. And really that's all it comes down to. Yeah.
This is one of the richest advices I ever heard from people I'm talking to, because usually we can hear it, you know, like who you're hanging with, you know, that's going to determine who you're going to become. But, you know, the thing is, you say you choose the people who you can be successful with, you know.
Exactly.
You can be, you know, be protected somehow.
Yeah.
On that note, you transition yourself from the sport into the business, right? But most of sports people, particularly in boxing, they end career in boxing and then
done.
Literally done. You know, like I can't name some people because I know several people from the boxing. They somehow they become the personal trainers or even, you know, working into the as a bouncers. I said to myself, all that effort, all that sacrifice, all that trainings and everything else for what? You know what I mean? What do you think? Why these aspiring sports people don't transition into the something greater like yourself? Because nobody gave you nothing. You fought for yourself. You decide consciously you're gonna transition yourself into the business. So like nobody said to you one morning, "Hey Ted, here we go. The door is open for you. Become a businessman." You done it. You decided. So why the other people don't decide consciously? I'm gonna end up one day career in boxing or any other sport. I need to transition into something else. Instead of this, they fall from the
Well,
shot.
let's look at Muhammad Ali as the best example, right?
Please.
The biggest showman on earth. Let's look at him. He openly said, boxing is my platform to educate the world about Islam. That's what he utilized boxing for. He said, no, the boxing got me well known, but it's not my true purpose in life. And I think that this is really significant because as a professional boxer, if this is your aim and your goal and your only goal, people don't realize how young 30 is. The 25-year-olds think, oh, 30, you're old. You don't have a clue how young 30 is, especially now with all the, you know, physical education, physiological education, dieting, cryovacking. You can live till you're 100 years old.
Yeah, that's
you can live till you're 100, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the secret to being a professional athlete in any field is thinking beyond that field. What am I going to do after I sport? How is boxing, how is being a tennis player, how is that going to work for me? You know, because as many rich people as there are in these sports, there are 50,000 poor people, right? We see Paul McCartney, we see all these brilliant singers. There are billions of singers that make nothing. And same in sports. So you've got to look at how the sport can platform or catapult you into something beyond sport. And I think this is what's going to, initially, this is what's going to help people after sport. But if you're in sport and you've not even thought about what's beyond sport, then you've got to utilize, you know, sports management, marketing companies. What can I do after sport to help you get, you know, to achieve your life, whether it be television, whether it be media. The problem with sports per se, like you said earlier, a lot of boxers normally come from, you know, fighting backgrounds, disadvantaged backgrounds. Well, when you're if you become a trainer and you're training 100 kids from disadvantaged backgrounds, they've all got no money. So you're doing it for free. So this is the thing. When people go into coaching and that, there's no actual money revenue. And I'm not saying revenue is the answer to everything. But I'm saying if you want to try and make a living and do something and you've got 100 kids that are all poor, that you want to help, that have got no money and come from a bad background, then you are the price that they pay to move forward. You're the pillow that lays there for them to cross the pond.
I'm hoping that, I'm truly hoping that this interview is going to be heard by many people who are really struggling to understand what they would, what they're going to do with the transition from the sport to something else. Yeah. You know, you are a successful story, but I said, like, you know, there's so much humbleness in you.
Thank you.
And your honesty. Because, like, you didn't walk into this studio, it's like, oh, I'm the Ted Cofie, I'm the world champion. You know, every time when I was preparing myself for this interview, I said to myself, I want to sit opposite me with a world champion. And this is not a Rocky movie. You know, in 70s, I remember, like, when I grew up, we all want to be Rocky, you know, the chicken, you know, the eggs and drinking and training. It lasted 6 days and that's it. You'll be like, you know what I mean? But I think it takes a lot of sacrifice and understanding. And you today lay down the literally blueprint for everybody who wants to transition in life, you know, from hard sacrificing work to become the professional sportsman, that one day that career was going to come to the end. And there is a life beyond horizon. So it's not just a
big time.
You know, I mean, boxing can be anything. So, like, for that one, I'm very grateful that you will inspire a lot of people. They can apply this knowledge and your expertise, because, like, it's easy to say you're the world champion. You don't become world champion overnight. You know. Can I ask you something? You sing a lot of things, and you said, let me quote you this: fake truths and real stories actually is the fake stories, right? They become the fake stories. Everybody's successful, everybody's good looking, everybody sells the proteins, everybody's a fitness instructor, everything else. What is the biggest mistake you see when people go into business? What do you think was the biggest mistake? Dishonesty, representing themselves and their product and services, or something else?
The biggest mistake people think about going into business is that it's going to be easy, or that it's going to be easier than just having a job, or that it's going to offer freedom.
Yeah.
Because often when you start your own business, when I started my own business, I was everything. I sweep the floor, make my own tea, answer the phone, you do everything. So it's actually much harder and a lot more pressure. You know, you got taxes, you kind of, after a while, you got payroll taxes, you know, you're running a business, you've got responsibility. And it's actually much, 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 much harder than just getting up and going to work every day. If you're a successful person and you're in an executive role, you're getting 150, 200 grand a year. You do your job. Yes, it's got some stresses from your management. You go home, you get paid every month. You know, in my company, yeah, we make good money. But if you have a month where it's dead, or 2 months, you get no money. So the pressure's on to keep going day after day, keep fixing issues, addressing issues, talking to customers, understanding customers, managing feedback, all of these things that in a job you can kind of ignore and just still get paid and carry on. So I think the biggest misconception about business is that, oh, now I've got freedom. Now I work for myself. It's easier. It's not. Yeah.
I don't want to name some podcasters there. I don't want to name the people because I don't want to give them the platform to promote them. But I will strongly suggest to everybody, guys, you can go and try to learn new business from people who are CEOs. And I always advise, go to Ted. Ted was selling the KFC. Ted was fighting in the ring. Ted was doing education. When you talk to CEOs of some companies, they are employees. And in all honesty, I always look high into some CEOs, and I could never understand why I can't replicate what they're doing into my life, my business. Then I realized, well, they're employees, they're working for the company, they have, nice big offices, you know what I mean? But you are a true CEO, somebody who has, blueprint, not of success, but pathway for the greatness. And that's for that I'm very, very grateful. During conversation, I observe some things, how you talk, you don't want to swear, you know what I mean, and everything else.
No.
So I can see that, or maybe I can feel it, that the faith is important to you.
100%.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Instead of going to depth, why is faith important for anybody? And what is a faith for you? I mean, it doesn't need to be the God or church, but in your own words, what is the faith for you, and why is the faith important for everybody to be happy after all? Fulfilled.
Well, I've got many stories in this area, and I don't want to become, a crazy religious freak in this platform. But I've had 4 out-of-body experiences. So for me, I know God is real. I know the higher power is real. My parents, like I said, are from Ghana. Ghana was a British colony, and with that British colony came, British religion. So a lot of black Muslims became Christians because they were colonialized by the British. So my parents were Christian, but I've traveled the world. I've been to the Middle East. I've spent time in Egypt. I've been all over the world, and I've met many Muslims, like real Muslims that, are humble and poor and sit in the village and will give you their food before they eat themselves. So I started to learn about a lot of religion, about faith, outside of just you grew up as a Christian. It taught me a lot of things. So this is only my thought, okay? I think religion, people have different vehicles to get to God. Right? Yes. Different vehicles, different ways.
Yes.
You might drive in a Honda, you might drive in a four-wheel drive. I believe, this is just me, I believe religion is a vehicle. And the true people that believe in God will get to God. I may say one thing, you may say another. But you can feel a real person when they're a real holy person. I've been in, very difficult positions, and somebody's helped me. He's a Muslim. Just helped me from his heart. Didn't know what my upbringing was, didn't know nothing, just heart of God. Yes. And I've been in another situation.
I love your honesty. It's so interruptive.
And I've been in another position where I've been down, destitute, I've been out, and the person that helped me happens to be a Christian, And I think God's work is done in many ways. I don't hate you whether you're a Christian, Muslim, Hindu, it doesn't matter. If you're nice to me and I can feel your spirit, then I know that you're a holy guy, regardless of what denomination you are. So I was born a Christian, and my brother's a pastor. I followed Christianity. But then as I got older, I was just introduced into all these other facets of religion. Mm-hmm. And how can that child go to hell because he's a Sikh and knew nothing else? How can that guy be a horrible person because he's a Muslim and that's the way he grew up? Do you know what I mean? So I just think that, religion has all these different vehicles. But for me, I don't judge people by their vehicles. I accept everyone for who they are, But as in spiritual religious, to me, that's my number one. Without the spirituality, I could not have even got up to have my first fight.
Yeah. I never expected we're gonna talk about these things, but I'm glad that we did because, when I was growing up, I was Roman Catholic, and eventually we went in a war in Yugoslavia. Yeah. But it's more religious, Orthodox Christians versus Roman Catholics and Muslims. It was all a mixture. And, I started questioning some things during the wars, like, how did God decide who is right, who is wrong? Mm. And then I realized that actually people around us determine, who is right, who is wrong. And I'm glad that you share this with all of us. That's your life philosophy. Mm. But what is your right now current endeavors? So you're running your business. You fought your life. It's like, I don't want to let you go to, I want to talk to you all day now. Yeah. No, I wish you on a long flight. Yeah, absolutely. So what are you doing right now? What's your plans now? You're running your business.
Yeah.
Your daughter, she's doing social media.
My daughter's an amazing singer.
Sorry,
she's
her name again, please.
Singer, but she does my social media as well.
Because I met her with you, I was like, okay, that's a good one. So, hello to your daughter. So, what are you doing right now?
So I run my company, Naika Management, which is an international management consulting agency. We specialize in management and business consulting, but we do a lot of commodity exchange. So we ship products across the world, either directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
We have an export license. We'll purchase products from Brazil and we'll ship them into Ghana, West Africa, or into Asia. We'll purchase something from India or Asia and we'll ship it into Africa or somewhere else. We've imported seafood into Australia from Thailand. We've done everything. So, the import journey and the commodity journey is very, very, very difficult. I've made many mistakes in the industry. There's many, many moving parts. And this is an industry where you need to trust people because you just can't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself. It's impossible. Yeah. The paperwork, a lot of the commodity exchange and the documentation is now becoming electronic. Like if you do it into Dubai, it's electronic. What that means is, in the old days, you could write,
Paper, on a paper, yeah.
Yeah, you could write Mario, full stop.
Yeah.
Mario B, full stop, right? They say, oh, you mean Mario? Okay, yeah, bring it through. Yeah. But now, if one letter's wrong on your name, the whole thing gets rejected because it's done like a passport. It's electronic. Has to match exactly. So this creates a lot of difficulty. And obviously, if you're sending frozen product and it goes to Dubai and it sits on the tarmac for 3 hours in 50 degrees, you've lost your product. So there's all these massive, massive regulations, import permits, and all these things you've got to do that allow product to move freely across the world. And there's trillions of dollars of product on the sea at any given time and at any given day, going through the Suez Canal or going across the Bass Strait, the Bay of Bengal, the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. It's all over the place. So so we do commodity exchange, and we do a lot of the product, the end-to-end product, but a lot of the paperwork, the management, the structure, and the process of delivery. So for people that want to import or export things, we do that.
I'm glad that you explained the entire process, right? Because we love getting our products on the door, right? Yeah. Like I ordered the other day that one of these sea stands, and it was late for a couple of days, and I was frustrated in Australia. So I called the courier company and said, Mario, we're sorry, it was being shipped in the wrong direction. It's going to come back.
Happens.
But that was in Australia. We talk about, Sydney, not in Australia, Sydney.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that people can, NICO, right? That's called NICO management. NICO management. Because who better can fight for my product to reach destination than the world champion, yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, seriously, because you didn't choose easy path business, you choose now to fight for your clients.
Yeah. And sometimes it really is a fight.
It is.
It's a very difficult discipline. I mean, it can be very rewarding. There's a lot of money involved in commodity exchange, obviously, because moving products around the world is massive. I mean, you've seen it with Donald Trump adding the tariffs to try and make America receive more money. So he's running America like a business.
Yeah.
But America is not a business. It's got 350 million people there, right? So it's obviously more than a business. But from a pure business perspective, America is spending more than they're receiving. So from a business perspective, he's like, wait a minute, we're spending $1 trillion, or we're spending 1.4 trillion, we're purchasing $1 trillion. And that's because when we send a car to Europe, there's a 20 or 30% tax. When the Europeans send the car to America, it's a 2% tax. Why don't we just make it even? So it all sounds good in principle. This is what he's doing, right? He's a good businessman. Love him or hate him, he's a great businessman that's come from a $1 billion fortune. So he understands how to level the books.
But yet you make us to make our products available to the market for the less taxes.
There's a humanitarian piece that's missing. This is what politicians need, the humanitarian piece, right? Because I don't want to get into politics.
No, it's okay.
But, politics was, governments were put in place to protect the rich from the poor.
That's correct. That is correct.
This is why governments were put in place. Rich people put in there to say, keep us safe. So all these things were created to benefit the rich. So this is original. Like I said, we won't get into that. But what Donald Trump's trying to do from a business perspective is balance the books. He's like, we're spending more than we're earning. Let's switch it around. Okay, let's add tariffs onto China. Let's do it may not have been the answer. Let's have a conversation. Hey guys, we're spending a bit more. Can we maybe try and do this? You know, it doesn't work. Donald Trump is black and white. But from a business perspective, it's the same thing. You know, business is tough. I'm glad I boxed before I came into business, because business is tough. You got to be resilient. You got to manage adversity. You've got to understand if you go down one day, you got to find a way to fight and come back up. All these difficulties in business, they're all real. And in a country like Australia, where, you know, businesses often pay 10 times more than consumers to do stuff like, you know, redirect mail and, you know, taxes and all these things, it's even harder. When you go to some countries like the UAE and some other countries, you get payments and benefits for opening a business. You employ someone, you get a benefit. In parts of the UAE, if you open an office, you will get subsidized rent because you've got an office that's actually creating jobs. But in Australia, it's the opposite. You know, you get hit with more tax, you get hit with more bills, you get hit with everything. So it's actually a very, very difficult place to do business well. And you've got to be tight, you've got to be structured, and you've got to have your foundation. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people will get, you know, $1 million out of their super. You've been working 50 years, I got $1 million. Oh, great, I'll go and open a pub or a bar. It's like, I see these in consulting. It's just a race to the bottom, fail, end of money. Because there's so much wastage in food and bars and drinks and that you know, that it's not accounted for. So on paper, it looks easy, right? What's your sales? What's your gross revenue? What's your net? What's your expenses? Done. But in reality, there's all this wastage. There's all these miscellaneous costs. There's these payrolls. There's 6 staff that you still have to pay for in this country. If you've got 10 staff and 4 of them are sick, and you've got to hire 4 more to replace the 4 that are sick still get paid. And the 4 more you're bringing in get paid a casual rate. So now you're paying for 14 staff when you've only accounted for 10. And there's all these expenses and these overtures that is not accounted for when you do the books. You say, I've got $1 million. I want to open this. I'm going to get this many customers. This is going to happen. And at the end, I'm going to have, at the end of the year, year 1, I'll lose 200 grand, but year 2, I'll make 400 and I'll be back on top. It's not how business works.
If somebody wants learn the business, would you be happy to be somebody's mentor?
Yeah. But the right person.
Right person.
Yeah. Or the right people. Right person.
Guys, I'm going to put in comment section below, description actually, how you can reach the Ted Cofie, who was my guest today. And for those who want to learn more about NYACO management, how they can find you?
Sure, they can get me on my website, www.nyacomanagement.com. NYACO management.com. I've got to update the website, to be fair.
Okay, that's fair, yeah.
My socials at Teddy Cofie, which is my Instagram. Yeah. And obviously you're going to put the link on in your bio or at the bottom of this
certainly
page.
I will. Certainly I will.
And I think the first thing about understanding business is you got to be a bit humble to go into business. You know, in order to be a good leader, you got to be empathetic towards other people. Think from their point of view. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying if you've got $10 and everyone's got nothing, then you give $1 each to everyone, because then you'll all have nothing, right? You've got to build yourself, but you've got to understand the position other people are in. You've got to be able to read the room and understand what motivates other people. This is what creates good leaders. So good managers are everywhere, because you can just say, right, you go there, sweep the floor, right? But if I say to you, Mario, I want you to go over there and sweep the floor, you say, I'm not sweeping the floor for you, man. Or you might sweep it with pure resentment. But if I say to you, Mario, you've got an amazing studio, you're going to try your best to build the best podcast on earth. You know, the first thing people shop with is their eyes. If they see dirt on the floor, they're going to think, I'm not interested in that podcast. If you sweep that floor, the next person that walks in there might be your ticket to success. So when you sweep the floor, sweep it with pride. Suddenly you're motivated to sweep the floor because you're like, wait a minute. So sweeping the floor may actually create my success, my vision. It's not just me doing you a favor because you've given me an order. And this is the same in business. Leaders create reasons why people should do things to a system. And they follow them and they go to the path that's created. Elon Musk once brought his team into a meeting. I heard about this. I read it. I think I read it in the Financial Times. So he had a meeting with his staff, and there was some stuff going on in Tesla. I think this is when Tesla had a dip. Yeah. Elon Musk said, "Oh, I'm down to my last 50 million. I'm being nervous. And everyone, you shouldn't worry about working, 20 hours a day. We're all in it together, And everyone's like, dude, we're getting paid $15 an hour, right? You're a billionaire. And he didn't read the room. And everyone was like, we're not working 20 hours a day. We've got families and kids.
Yeah.
So his vision wasn't their vision. It was the wrong vision.
Wrong vision.
It was the wrong vision. Because, of course, I want to work 20 hours a day because I'm going to be a billionaire if my company takes off and I get all the rewards and I get everything. And I'm only down to $50 million, right? So, but these
I just love it.
Yeah, but these people don't relate to it. They couldn't relate. So he had all these issues in Tesla for a long time and he had all these court cases. But my point is, I think leadership is not just a word. It's a real action. And it's important to learn it and understand things. And adversity creates humbleness, and humbleness and knowledge, creates good leadership, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
I will say, the conversation with you today, the interview with you today. First of all, I can't say enough thank you. Number two, I'm glad that you are not somebody who's been introduced to me. He's a great CEO. He work in some company. Instead of this, I was introduced to you on a floor where my friend Steve, organized that meeting, that event, and I saw the man who fought his way with humbleness. I didn't know how humble truly you are, but you are very much. Thank you. But it's like you understand what means sweeping floors. You work in KFC.
Absolutely.
You know what sacrifices and how much hard work is. Dedication, it's needed to achieve results because we all love to be champions. Everyone loves to be champion, and as I say, I think that one thing I always regret myself, I wanted to be boxer, but, life took it different turns. Rocky Balboa with his belt and screaming Arian, what I mean? Yeah, Fantastic. I mean, everybody wants that as a kid, we all wanted that feeling. But today I'm sharing this space in my studio with you who are true, not just a world champion in boxing, but a people champion. And I'm gonna root for you always because today you truly explain what the leadership it is without fluff, without the sugar coating. You said you need to invest into people, understand, you need empathetic to be, invest into people, read the room, because they're gonna follow you and assist you in your vision.
Exactly.
And for that one, Ted, I'm very grateful that you find time today to come in my studio, share with audience to life the battlefield, true story of the true champion, because it's not every day, I'm talking to the people person like yourself. So Ted, thank you very much for being my guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put in the description section how we can contact Ted. Those who are interested to be mentored by Ted, contact him, maybe you'll be lucky. Right people as well. And most importantly, those who are looking, to import-export things and, reach their customers in a satisfactory level, I'm going to put nayakomanagement.com down in the description section. So, Ted, thank you very much for being my guest today.
Mario, my pleasure. Thank you so much.